No, I'm checking your heart. I was a medic in Salt Lake for a few years. One rainy day, my partner and I got dispatched to a fairly upscale neighborhood on a call of chest pain. Chest pain means flashing lights and sirens. We quickly arrive in front of a pretty nice house and find a woman standing at the curb with 2 suitcases packed. Already a red flag. I shut down the siren, but kept the lights going for safety. We ask if she called 911 and she confirms. She steps into the ambulance, sits on the bench, and asks us to get going. I tell her we need to do a full workup before we leave, so we can provide care en route and take her to the right facility. She says she doesn't really have chest pain. She has a procedure scheduled at the hospital, and she wants me to turn off the flashing lights so her neighbors don't notice and ask her questions. Obviously, this is EMS abuse, and I tell her so. Suddenly, her chest pain is back. So I say I need to get vitals and start an ECG. She protests again, mentioning the start time for her appointment in less than 30 minutes. And so I ask her point blank, "Do you need medical attention or do we need the police?" I proceeded to do a full workup in front of her house, taking my sweet-ass time, asking enough questions to make her eyes roll, and leaving the strobe lights on the whole time so the neighbors would see. And she was late to her appointment because we admitted her to the hospital through the ER instead of the front doors. Story 2. Sorry, ma'am. Of course your son can try the 7M shoe hot sauce. I work in a hot sauce store in a busy outlet mall. We're a well-liked locally owned business and have many loyal return customers, but at this particular location we also get a lot of tourists who are curious about our challenge items, or Hot Ones products. We have a large variety of samples available every day. Literally like 100 hot sauces, 50-plus BTQ wing sauces just out on the table, and we can pull another 50-plus bottles or so from the fridge if one's open. Every so often, we get people who come into the store and ask to try the hottest sauce. They love jalapenos in their burritos and have eaten habaneros straight, and they're ready to enter the ring, swallow some sauce, and gain the admiration of a couple friends and bystanders at the cost of a stomach ache. We usually try to guide them to the 10th hottest sauce in the store, burn them with it, and move on to something mild or medium suited to their taste. Today, while I was selling items to people who were actually paying for things, a 10-or-so-year-old boy enters the store. I always get wary when children enter the store alone because it is full of glass bottles. They usually dart straight for the shelves and pick something up. But this child came barreling towards me like a bullet. While I make change for the couple buying some sauce, he calls out to me, "Excuse me!" in a horrendous whiny pitch. I ignore the rude interruption and continue my conversation with my customers. He parrots it again 12 times or so back to back as I thank these people and get them out of the store. Finally, I turn to him. "How can I help you?" "Where the fuck are this kid's parents?" "Hi, can I try the hottest sauce in the store?" "Not this shit again. I'm not dealing with this. Not with a 10-year-old kid." I explained to him that the hottest sauce on the table
is Hellboy, Right Hand of Doom. It's spiked with a 6.66 million Scoville extract, and honestly, if you're not experienced with this kind of stuff, more than just a tiny bit can really mess up a good part of your day. Take my word for it. I explained to him he has to be 19 years old to try it and sign a waiver, which is bullshit, but I'm off in 30 minutes, so fuck this kid. And instead guide him to a tasty fermented habanero that he coughs his eyes out on before explaining to me that he could handle the right hand of doom, because his dad eats spicy peppers with him all the time. "Okay," I say. He leaves. Thank God. 15 minutes later, I'm interrupted by another customer, this time a gigantic woman in a blue blouse. She's set next to my sample table like a giant blueberry blocking up 20% of my floor space. "Excuse me." Apple doesn't fall far. The customers I'm with are polite and excuse me to speak to her. "You didn't let my son try the sauce?" I explained to her that it has extract in it several hundreds times hotter than anything he has ever eaten, and that it can cause him severe discomfort, and that I will not let him try it in my store. I explained that she is free to purchase the sauce and have him try it at home if she so wishes. She explains to me that she married a Mexican man and that I wouldn't believe the things we ate in New Mexico City where he grew up. When I asked what they had eaten there, she told me, "Things hotter than anything we have in the store." At this point, her daughter interrupts our conversation. I shit you not. "Excuse me. What?" I'm getting annoyed. I was annoyed from the second I saw the kid, and now he's back 20 minutes later with 3 of them. "Well, why do you sell Valentina? It's not even a hot sauce."
Jesus Christ. Aren't you from Mexico? It says fucking salsa picante on the goddamn bottle. It's $5.50. I'm off at 6. I've had enough. How about this? You can try the sauce, and if it's as mild as you think, I'll let him try it. She agreed and grabbed her sample stick. I reached for the right hand of doom and unscrewed the cap, its nuclear aroma sending memories of aches to my stomach. As she goes to dip the stick into the sauce, I warn her to only take a small amount. She grins at me and dips the stick all the way into the sauce. Trap card, bitch! She slaps it into her mouth. Immediately, she looks uneasy before she throws herself into pure agony. She is coughing, swinging her head back and forth, trying desperately to speak, but she cannot muster any words. She dropped her sample stick in all the chaos. After a solid few minutes of coughing and dry heaving, she manages a single word: water. I explain to her that water won't help her now. My relief walks through the door just in time to witness the finish. She tells me that the only reason she is coughing is because it went down the wrong pipe. She then immediately vomits into our garbage can. She apologizes for spitting up like she didn't just rocket launch half a liter of chum into my trash can, and then leaves without saying anything else. I tossed out the trash with a smile on my face and clocked out. Story 3. I can't drive anywhere without permission. Okay, I'll follow that rule, maliciously. This happened when I was 16 years old and just got my driver's license. My parents had me run to the store to pick up some groceries. I stopped by my friend's house on the way back home for maybe 5 minutes to show him I got my license, and I was out driving alone. It was a really fun moment in the life of a 16-year-old. My stepmom, Mary Ann, freaked out. We did not give you permission to drive to Bill's house. We told you to go to the store, and that is all. I told Mary Ann and my dad that they had let me drive to Matt's house the day before, so I didn't think it was a big deal. They went unreasonable and laid down the unbendable rule that set up the malicious compliance. You are not allowed to drive anywhere we do not give explicit permission for you to drive. Period. End of sentence. Just because you were allowed to do it previously does not ever give you permission another time. Ever. Fast forward 3 days later. My 13-year-old stepsister has been a jerk to me all day, and I'm sick of her BS. She goes quiet for about 30 minutes and then comes out all sticky sweet. Hey, Brian, it's time to take me to ballet. I've taken her to ballet 3 days a week since I got my license. It's basically one of my chores. But I see my opportunity to say screw you to all 3 of them at once. Sorry, Tina. I'm not allowed to take you to ballet. The parents didn't tell me to take you, and I don't want to get in trouble. She screams, she cries, she begs, she threatens. She calls her mom and leaves a message. She calls my dad and leaves a message. Just like Steve Miller says. Time keeps on slipping into the future. I'm not sure I'm brave enough to hang on to the bitter end and actually go through with it. I'm shaking. But I know I've got them dead to rights. No call back from the parents, and the clock goes on past the start of her class. Stepmom comes home, and Tina runs to meet her. Tina, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at ballet. I hear Tina tell her rendition of the story, leaving out how miserable she'd been, and they go back and forth. Mary Ann comes pounding down the hall and yells, as God is my witness, "You just wait till your father gets home." I had to stifle a laugh, because I never really believed people actually said that. An hour later, Dad comes home, and the 2 of them go running out to meet him and tell him how horrible I was. I wait in my room for the hammer to fall. About 10 minutes later, my dad calls down the hall. Brian, would you please come here and talk to us? Well, Brian, you did it. What do you mean, Dad? You got us all, and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. Okay, let's make this reasonable for everyone. And they did. They agreed that they were over the top. They recognized that Tina isn't always very nice to me, and they spoke to her about that. I was allowed to have reasonable freedom if I was driving somewhere, since I had good grades and had never been in trouble. I walked down the hall back to my room, my back to my parents, with the world's biggest grin on my face.